Hello everybody, here it's Mike Gable, Pontoon Hydrofoil Applications, and I'm here with Richard. We just did a recent install of a VARA Foil on his boat, and he's just going to tell us a little bit about it. But we met at a boat show, and last week we finished the install. And maybe Richard, you can tell us your thoughts. Well, tell us about your boat first.
Well, it was a used boat, and I bought it. 2014 20-foot Sun Chaser with a 94-stroke Yamaha. And it was slow. And so my son and I had been talking about repowering it, but the expense of putting a 150 on it and was just more than we wanted to bite off right now. So I was at the boat show with a buddy of mine who's looking to buy a boat. I wasn't even in the market for anything. And I came across your booth, and I took a minute and watched your video there, and it was very impressive. Plus, you had a pontoon boat similar to mine up on its side with the same hydrofoil. So after talking to you, you guaranteed me 25% in speed. I went for it, and the price was right. You couldn't beat the price. It was a quarter of the price of a new motor, so or even less. So I told you to call me. You did. You came right out. You picked my boat up and put it in the water for me. And we did it. You wanted to do a test to see what the boat was doing. So we started out in 500 RPM increments of 1500 RPMs at a certain speed, then 2000, 2500, and we maxed out at 6200 RPMs at 27 miles per hour, and the wind was to our back. And so anyway, you took the boat home. You brought it back.
Yep.
And we put it in the water, and you let me run it. And as soon as that thing came up on foil, it was like freedom, buddy. It was floating in the air. And I think we got up to 34 miles per hour, and you wanted to make some adjustments. So we ran to the bank and put it on the trailer. You made about 2 or 3 adjustments on it. And I had an old beat up aluminum prop, 3-blade prop, and you brought a prop for me to try. So we put the prop on it. We went out in Tampa Bay, went across the bay towards St. Pete, and we hit 38 miles per hour at 5,200 RPMs. That's 12 miles an hour speed increase, and or 11, and 1,000 less RPMs. And just the floating on air was so amazing. I've never seen anything like that or felt it. It's just the noise went away from the water beating on the pontoons. Just was quiet. It was a beautiful ride. So
do you have like the obviously the VARA plate? You haven't talked about that. We haven't mentioned anything about that. But as part of your kit with the VARA foil, you get the struts. Okay, you get the foil, and you also get the VARA plate. And the VARA plate's set up to be comparative to what a plane has as its pitch control device. Well, the VARA plate does the same thing for the pontoon boat or the tri-toon boat application. And that VARA plate might have been a little intimidating. Can you tell me where you were a little bit afraid of, okay, what does this thing do? And well, you know, what was some of your first thoughts and second thoughts? My
thumb on the trim and tilt was I had to get used to it, you know, because I'd trim too much one way or too much the other. But after we went probably a half mile, it was just like, it was just clockwork. It fell right in. I've had Doyle fins, nothing compared to what you provided. Yours is massive, but it's a great product, what you're selling. And I never want to have another pontoon boat without one.
That's good to hear.
Never.
Yeah, so when you picked up the trim tilt, you know, I talked to you a little bit about it, so we tried to fast forward you because we only spent it probably, what, 45 minutes of time out there. We didn't have a whole lot of time. So that trim tilt, you got to notice, I assume that, you know, those bigger movements that you're used to, they kind of go away. Absolutely. And they become smaller, just bumps. Tap, tap, you call it a bump. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing that we want to get out to the customers, is that it's no longer this trim up, trim down thing, going through the big changes. It is bump, And then if nothing happens, bump, nothing happens, bump, bump. And then when something starts happening, be ready to bump back, right?
That's exactly right. Well, I've always been raised, you run with your bow up, okay? And that's, you get more speed, it increases your RPMs, but you're running level.
Correct.
And it's hard to break old habits, but once I did, it was just so simple. So when you feel your bow climbing, bump it down just a tad. And it was a great experience.
And as you were learning is that, you know, as the bow rises, like in our what we used to be taught, right, is bringing the bow up, get that out as much as we possibly could, shorten the water line, and then makes your boat more efficient and thus faster. In this case, if we keep our bow up, we're keeping the angle of attack for the hydrofoil up, so that hydrofoil is fighting to get to the surface of the water. So once we get too fast, it'll come to the surface of the water, and then it'll actually do a self-break,
down,
right? And we went through a couple of those.
Oh, yeah.
The first one you did, can you tell people about that? I mean, what do you think about that?
When I came off a hydrofoil at about 30 mile an hour, it it was kind of a shocker. It was like putting air brakes on. But boat rode right through it, went back down to regular boat, and so then you talked me through it, and I trimmed it up and got it up and kept it level. And once I set it, I could take my hands off everything.
Correct.
It just went so smooth. The pressure on the steering wheel that you feel went away. You're floating on air. It was a really cool feeling.
If you look for another boat, would you recommend VARA Foil on another boat, or would you just go pontooning or try tuning without
I'll never
VARA Foil?
pontoon again. Never.
Okay.
It's well worth the money. I will guarantee you. It's new technology. I mean, it's just, you see them on surfboards and everything. It's the same theory. We're riding on air, and it's less RPMs, which means less fuel, less wear and tear on my motor, and it's just a free feel. It's free feeling.
Well, let me ask you last question. Are you being paid to say any of this?
No.
Okay,
I'm
I just
a
want to make
customer.
sure. I just want to
paying
make sure. Okay.